Good afternoon. This is the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, November 6, 2024. Second item, land acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional lands of Wet'suwet'en First Nation, part of Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And before we start the meeting, and since Remembrance Day is coming up on November 11th, I'd like a moment of silence, please. Standing. Thank you very much, Council. Just remember to thank a veteran for all the freedoms that we enjoy today. Item number 3, additions or deletions to the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions? Seeing none, I declare that the agenda is approved. Item number 4. The approval of the agenda. Well, we just did that. Item number 5, declarations of conflict of interest. If there's any declarations of conflict of interest on any item, please notify me, and please step away from the table, and I'll notify a recording secretary to note your name that you've declared that conflict of interest. Item number 6, presentations. Major project status update. Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Council, and congratulations to our newly elected councillors. I have the privilege today of giving you a high-level update on some of the major projects that the municipality is involved in. And we have about 10 minutes scheduled for this, and if you have questions along the way, Mr. Chair, if it pleases you, it's probably easier to answer questions as we go. And so I'll rely on you to...
All right, so if anyone has a question, please turn on your microphone and I'll give you the floor. Interrupt the CEO and where she's at, and you can follow up with any questions you have.
This was working 2 seconds. There we go. So the first project that I'd like to bring to Council's attention is the Hebron Inflow and Infiltration Project. This is a project relating to one of our major sanitary sewer collection and distribution systems. Sanitary sewer collection systems are designed and funded based on only the materials they were designed for going into them. And over the last decade or so, the municipality of Yarmouth has invested in monitoring software that allows staff to identify what the flow levels are going through the pumping chambers in real time. And the bylaw for the sewer service does indicate that only sanitary sewer items can go in the sewer system. So no rainwater runoff, nothing from sump pumps in basements, nothing from ditching systems on property can go into the sewer system. That would be contrary to the bylaw. And the other input into the cost of the sewer systems is the fact that in this particular case, the material that's collected in Hebron is transmitted to the town of Yarmouth's sewer treatment facility, and the municipality of Yarmouth pays a fee to the town of Yarmouth for treatment of that material, and it's based on volume. So it's very important for asset management reasons, for cost containment reasons, and for the agreement we have with the town that only the items that should be in that system are in that system. And so because the monitoring equipment showed us that there were definitely flow spikes during rain events, that there was an indication that material was going into the system that ought not be going into the system. In the years 2022, 2023, the municipality contracted with an engineering firm and did a study to identify where the inflow and infiltration was coming from, and there are a number of areas in the system where the problems exist. Everything from manholes to cracks in pipes to illegal inflow into the system. And so in 2024, council, through an approved budget, allowed staff to work on what we call the low-hanging fruit. And so several manholes were repaired, significantly reducing inflow and infiltration immediately. So in the coming years, there will be another phase of work that will begin early next calendar year on the Greenville Road. The main distribution line on the Greenville Road does require some further exploration and some significant repairs and maintenance to reduce risk of failure and consequence of failure. So council have approved $500,000 a year for this fiscal year and the next 2 fiscal years to accomplish the remediation work that came out of the engineering report. Several vendors will be used for the work depending on exactly what needs to be done. So we are estimating at the staff level that we will make our way through the list of remediations by the end of fiscal year 2026, 2027, and we are currently in mid-phase 1 of that project. Mr. Chair, any questions on that project?
Say, how far up the Greenville Road would that entail?
It goes just past the Nova West Regional Business Park.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Speaking of the Nova West Regional Business Park, in the last number of years, the municipality aggressively endeavored to sell vacant lots in the park and was fairly successful. And in the existing phase of the business park, there are only 1 or 2 lots available for sale. So recognizing through feedback that has been received by some of the developers that are in the park that investors need shovel-ready ground or near shovel-ready ground in order to move forward with their projects and their business models. Council directed staff to undertake a body of work that would lay out what an expansion to the business park could look like. And so in the diagram on the bottom left-hand side of the slide is the plan for the next phase of lots in the business park. So on the slide, on the bottom left-hand corner, the area of land that has the diagonal lines through it would be what most people would know as the FedEx property. And so the road will continue past the FedEx property and be developed respecting water courses and archaeological sites of significance for Indigenous Canadians. And so work has been done to design the road and the services that will be required, as well as some groundwork on the sites. And so the project is now at tender-ready stage, and council have approved issuing the tender. Based on construction calendars and the way the construction season works, it has been recommended and approved by council that a pause be pushed on releasing the tender until January 2025, when it's believed that the municipality will have the most advantageous position in the marketplace to tender for a major construction project. So the next step will be to issue the tender and provide a recommendation to council based on the tender results. The approved budget for the project is up to $2.5 million. As I said, the vendor is to be determined and the contract price is to be determined. The project is tender ready, and if approved and moves forward, it will likely take all of fiscal year 2025-26 to complete. Questions, Mr. Chair?
I see none.
Active
I do. Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham, you have the floor.
My apologies, just to add to the conversation. There's been a lot of there's been a lot of talk over the last number of years of businesses, being most appropriately situated in the business park, many of them. So residents are pretty supportive of a business park location for a lot of businesses, and just it's been our experience as a municipal council and unit over the last number of years that where there have been You know, where there has been interest in development out in the broader municipality, there has been at times some resistance to a business setting up in the broader municipal area. So just wanted to add that is a I guess a rationale for moving ahead with the business park expansion, but it's just one piece of it. Thanks.
Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Victoria. The $2.5 million budget, can you just explain that a little bit? Because really, didn't we, of our own money, weren't we only expecting to use like 1 or 1.1?
That's right. So the capital investment plan, when council approves the total project budget, the capital investment plan also sets out what funding streams will make up that total budget. And so in this case, there will be some municipal money used, but also some federal dollars. It's called the Canada Community Building Fund, or it used to be known as the Gas Tax Fund.
And just kind of reinforce, when we go to sell these properties, council should think about making it mandatory to put a building on them within so many years, or questionably it revert back to us, because we have a number in properties in that business park that haven't fully been developed since someone's purchased them.
So maybe, Mr. Chair, if I could, just a little more context on the business park. So the business park came into municipal ownership when a former economic development agency wound up its affairs and had assets to disperse amongst the municipalities that were part of that. And so this business park came to the municipality of Yarmouth from that previous operation. There were a number of lots that sat empty for a long time and did not generate any tax revenue for the municipality of Yarmouth. And the lots were priced appropriately and sold, to Councillor Hilton's point, and sold to property owners who were not under any covenants to erect buildings within any kind of time frame. This phase of the business park is different. It's, you know, largely municipal tax dollars that will fund the expansion, and the lots will be priced accordingly. And so therefore, there's a vested interest for the municipality of Yarmouth to ensure that when the lots are sold, that they're developed for the intended use.
See no further questions?
Active transportation. So the municipality participated in a project with the town of Yarmouth over a decade ago to develop a master plan for active transportation projects, largely designed to create connections between the old railway bed system. That plan has been completed largely by the town and the municipality. And so it's time to take a look once again at a strategic approach to making investments in modes of active transportation. So in terms of active transportation, the municipality owns sidewalks, trails, and multi-use trails, and participates in some funding along the rail trail system. And of course, with the growing cost of construction, life cycle costs, changes in population, active living assets have to be chosen, planned, and constructed from a strategic perspective, weighing all the inputs and all the benefits and considerations that come along with that. So council directed staff to undertake the development of a master plan to help guide investments over the next 20 years. So the approved budget to write the plan, not to do the projects, to write the plan, was $100,000. The contract was awarded to Urban Systems for $86,940.80, including non-refundable HST. And I'm just going to pause there for a second. So for our new councillors, municipalities have to pay a portion of the HST on the items and services it purchases, but it does get a refund of 71.4% of the 15%. So there is an expense item in the budget for HST that is not refunded. The stage of work around this project is at community engagement, readiness, and kickoff. So over the next couple of weeks, councillors may get calls from residents saying, I've been contacted and invited to an open house or a focus group, and that is legitimate. There will be 3 open houses and 4 focus groups over the next several weeks, largely connected to the hamlets in the municipality. There will be an open house, hopefully in this building, in December, the night of the Christmas tree lighting. And so we're hoping that that information will help provide important data to the consultants, who will then make recommendations through staff to council on how to move forward. And then once council has a comfort level with kind of the possibilities in the plan, we'll go back out to the community and say, this is what we think we heard you say. This is what council's comfortable with. How do you feel about that? And then work our way towards a final plan that can help guide investment over the next couple of decades. So it's going to take until, you know, late January, sometime in February, to get that work completed. Questions, Mr. Chair?
I don't see any.
So sea level rise analysis at Cape Forshue. Again, a number of years ago, a master plan was developed to guide investments and enhance services and experiences at Cape Forshue. Since that time, as most people know, there's just been an unprecedented trend of natural weather phenomenons that could be categorized as emergencies and disasters for sure. And so before council chose what project to do next and how to approach that project, there was a recognition that more information was required at Cape Forshue to understand, you know, what's going on with Cape Forshue and the ocean. So the project scope is around preventing and preparing for potential weather-related issues in the low-lying areas of the site. And so that would include considerations for improvements to mostly the parking facilities and the trail assets. And of course, the ongoing challenges include, you know, storm surge events, sea level rise, erosion, and increasing frequency. And the frequency piece is really important because when an organization or a person or a family experiences an emergency, the period of recovery is directly correlated to how resilient you are to experiencing those things. So if emergencies and weather-related events are happening more frequently, there's less time to recover and get your footing back and maybe, you know, replenish financial resources to be ready to respond to the next event. So the frequency is an important piece as well. Excuse me. So the idea is to assess the potential future effects of sea level rise at the site, collect additional data to inform decision-making. So once the information comes back to council, council will reevaluate the master plan based on the new findings and make adjustments to the master plan as necessary. And that's to keep in line with the asset management approach that the municipality takes in terms of balancing services and programs with a stewardship approach to the money. So instead of investing several $100,000 in a trail that could be destroyed 3 or 4 times a winter, maybe another service or program should be invested in that is a better use of the money. So that's the nature of the conversation. So the approved budget for that work is $100,000. Dillon Consulting has been awarded the contract in the amount of $68,200 plus the non-refundable HST. Currently, they've done a site assessment. They've used some drones to do some survey work. They're doing some GIS work, some mapping work, correlating some of their data with some provincial data sets. And so it's expected that the results of that work will come to council in March or April of 2025. Questions, Mr. Chair? Oops, I did something, Mike.
I don't see no questions, so I guess you're left in the lurch there.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so nobody's talking about housing today in the world around us. When housing was described as a crisis in Canada, council took a look at what its role could be, and it was decided by the council of the day that Housing was an issue for residents in the municipality district of Yarmouth. That was an all of government situation. So federal government, provincial government, and municipal government. And at that time, the municipality was embarking on its review of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw that's required in the MGA every 10 years. And so council took that opportunity to take a look at the planning documents and determine what could be done to smoothen the pathways to housing and allow other types of housing. And in addition to that, of course, participated in the province's housing survey. So the province of Nova Scotia commissioned Turner and Drake to do a housing survey during the pandemic. The survey was comprehensive and it was done at the municipal level, which means that the report that was tabled with the province of Nova Scotia included analysis of housing needs, trends, issues at the municipal level for all 45 municipalities in the province. And it focuses on the needs over the next several decades. There were challenges with that work. Of course, it was, the work was done by Turner and Drake during the pandemic. There was limited survey participation, limited access to developers, and so it impacted the data collection. And so after council addressed the low-hanging fruit through the planning documents, they felt like they needed to take another look at the data and try and get more information for the next level of understanding. And so I do just want to maybe highlight some of the changes that were made to the planning documents. So there were updates done to the residential zoning that allowed multiple unit residential zone in the serviced area of Hebron and the Lakes and District, and it permits dwellings with up to 10 dwelling units in them as of right, which is an important smoothing. There were improvements to the use of accessory dwellings so that they could be leveraged as part of the built infrastructure available for housing needs. There were decreases to the minimum lot sizes in certain situations to allow for more density. There was a recognition for a wider range of housing options in the municipality of Yarmouth, and that's really important because if we take a look at the change in the population demography, our community is made up of individuals who don't necessarily come from cultures where a single-family dwelling with 3 or 4 acres is the dream. They may want to live in a townhouse community or a housing co-op or a condominium kind of a situation. So council took a step back and recognized that over the next several decades, the types of housing that will be in demand are going to look different. In addition, there were more as-of-right options made available to small homes and homes for special care. And then finally, another piece of the low-hanging fruit was to smoothen the pathway for companies to build housing for employees. And so it was recognized that the municipality has marine industrial zones that are designed to support the oceans industries as well as general industrial zones. And so there were changes made to allow companies with operations in those zones to construct housing for employees who would work at those operations. So those are some pretty important changes to the planning documents that spoke to the housing. And so at that stage of the game, council was ready to say, well, what else can we do? And so we needed to understand more about the demand for housing by type and geography in the municipality of Yarmouth. Council needed to understand what infrastructure would be necessary for that forecasted demand and what programs and services would need to be in place to support the populations who would be living in those homes that are being forecasted. So staff went on the way and developed a request for proposals that would inform any additional necessary amendments to land use planning documents that would guide council decisions on offering and delivering municipal services such as recreation, public transit, sidewalks, street lights, and those sorts of services. A request to ask the town water utility to expand water services, increases in sewer services. And then that would support strategic decisions for municipal infrastructure investment. And I will pause there for a second as well. This step of the process is very important. If the municipality of Yarmouth is going to leverage federal dollars for some of the projects that council may want to undertake to incentivize housing and do make-ready work for housing, then program administrators and senior levels of government are going to want to see this body of work to demonstrate that the investments that council will want to make will lead and are designed to lead to more housing.
Councillor Phil Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How do we get you see most of the small option homes that are being built now across Atlantic Canada, like specifically in New Brunswick, and a lot of these are run by not-for-profit organizations. How do we engage those organizations to help us out with this, with a plan like this? Because I think the best way, and one of the things I'd like to see us do, is increase the tax base without increasing the taxes. So, and I think the best way for us to increase the tax base is through housing, because we have the advantage of having the best pieces of property, riverfronts, lakefronts, proximity to facilities, educational and health facilities in the town of Yarmouth. Is how do we engage, because I know the Shaw Group is doing one of them, and there's another group in New Brunswick's doing another one. How do we engage those people, or do we engage the business community? I know they're doing a development up in Clare, up in Littlebrook. How do we engage those people? Do we have to have a concept of an open house, or a concept of bringing all the developers in? There's numerous groups that could be the nonprofit part. Anywhere from, I'm just going to say, places like the Wesleyan Church or the Salvation Army. There's all, you can go through the provincial government through some of their housing programs. Where do you see that piece coming from?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to Councillor Mooney. So that's a perfect question, timed perfectly. So the stage of work that this is at is actually at engagement. And so the consultants who are doing this work are CBCL, and they have done a data analysis, they've done a literary review, and now they're at the stage where they've hosted a couple of open houses. They are doing kitchen table meetings with developers. They are meeting with the YACROs and the housing co-ops to understand what is it they will need. It's my understanding that this plan may make recommendations to do projects where there is a partnership between the municipality and a not-for-profit and CMHC to make a project happen. Last year, the provincial government put out an ask to municipalities for a list of land inventory that would be suitable for housing development. And the site selection metrics included, unfortunately, a requirement that there had to be municipal water and sewer. And that disadvantages rural municipalities significantly. However, there were a few couple of PIDs that the municipality put forward, and we haven't heard anything back on that in terms of if there's a piece of land that is of interest either to the province or a not-for-profit that's in the housing business. So I think that through the engagement and through recommendations in this work, that question and ideas around potential projects are going to be on the table for discussion. And the last thing I'll share, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Mooney's comments is that the municipality of Yarmouth's assessment base is approximately 93% residential assessment and 7% commercial assessment. And the municipality has not raised taxes since 2018, largely because the growth in assessment has satisfied the increases in expenditures, keeping the rate low. And that is from new construction as well as increased value of existing inventory. And that's really an ideal approach to take to growing community, is to actually increase the number of built structures in the community to share the load of the expenses across a bigger critical mass.
And plus, with the slide we did here 4 or 5 minutes ago, or 8 or 9 minutes ago with the park, you're trying to blend both of them together.
That's right.
The business part, the commercial part, and then the residential part. And I think our best bet is do the things with the park and do the residential piece, and I think it'll be a win-win for everybody.
So we're looking at a report to council in the winter of 2025, which will be very helpful in terms of making applications for the larger funding dollars through infrastructure programs from the federal government. Other questions on the housing project?
I see none.
And getting towards the end, so Town Suite. The municipality of Yarmouth requires several software products to operate the corporation. So systems for accounting, systems for taxation, systems for information management, systems for building inspections and booking recreation services. And unfortunately, the municipality learned about 5 years ago that support for the existing applications is going to be discontinued. The finance system is partly based on a Microsoft product that Microsoft is discontinuing and no longer supporting. And then all the other software applications have been custom built through the years. Some of the councillors that have been around a long time are probably well aware of that. And the individual, the coder who wrote those software products wants to retire and won't be supporting them anymore. So about 3 years ago, the municipality began to prepare itself for this major project. And so when you're talking about a wholesale switch out of your ERP systems, it's a significant disruption to the organization. It's a significant expense. There's a lot of work required to evaluate the options. And so staff took about 2 years to look at Canadian software products, evaluate them against each other. We took them for a test drive. All of the departments took all of the modules for a test drive. We put the business development officers from the corporations, we put their feet to the fire, and at the end of the day, the municipality selected the Newfoundland firm Town Suite to be the service provider. And so the municipality will be purchasing accounting, taxation, recreation, mapping, public works, development, and a customer portal, as well as an HR portal to support the total software needs for the corporation. It's been a very time-consuming, complex project. It has taken incredible amounts of staff time, particularly in the finance office, and the data transfer has not been smooth. Municipal Clerk Jenny Porter is the project manager, and she is quarterbacking all of the moving parts, trying to keep everything moving forward, even if it's small incremental steps every day. And because the systems that the municipality currently uses were custom built, mapping the data directly across into the software Town Suite's shape has been very challenging. It's almost like we've taken one piece of information at a time and figured out where it went, as opposed to mass importation. And so the project was originally supposed to take 18 to 24 months beginning in June 2022, and there have been delays. We are hoping to go live with the finance module in January 2025. That has been a moving goalpost for about 9 months. I'm hopeful that that is a realistic goal. Town Suite has assigned extra resources to the file to try and get the work done and to get the municipality of Yarmouth up and running on the software platforms. The good news is, once the finance system is up and running, the other modules will follow in quick succession because a lot of the mapping work will be done. Staff are currently taking training and working with the developers on beta testing the data transfers to make sure that things are accurate. So it was a $405,000 one-time purchase, and the annual subscription fee is in the $60,000 neighborhood. We are in the middle mile finalizing the data transfer and other module setups, and I'm hopeful that by summer 2025, we will be fully transferred. Any questions, Mr. Chair?
Councilor Daniel Hughes.
So in selecting Town Suite, were you surprised when there was all these bugs in this system? I mean, it's a lot of money, that $405,000 initial cost, and to have all these issues, was that a surprise?
It was a surprise, and it was very disappointing because one of the steps in the process in entertaining proponents was actually giving them a sample of the data. So the software proponents knew what the data was mapped like. And I think there were two things that happened, and I've had really great conversations with the president of Town Suite. We have come to an understanding around this issue. I've made my expectations clear to him. But he did indicate that he was under-resourced to take on the work, was part of the problem. But essentially, you know, they made a proposal, said they could do the job. They had a sample of the data, and then later on said, well, the data's not mapping over quite like we thought. So at the end of the day, a person is left to basically draw the conclusion that there was a piece missing maybe in their due diligence.
So there'll be no chance they'll be looking for some more money?
No, it's a contract,
Okay.
so we're locked in. And actually, that's a great question, Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor Muse. I actually wanted to negotiate out of the annual license fee because delivery hadn't been received. And it was shared with me that the increased cost to Town Suite for the work that they didn't properly forecast is significantly more than the annual license fee, and they're not coming asking for more money. So we're moving forward together, collaborating, and I think the president and I both understand that this has been very stressful for both of our teams, and so we're doing what we can to work together and collaborate to try and create a better experience and a long-term relationship.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, the last project that I want to review with council this evening is the administration and rotary accessibility upgrades, very high level. So the work around accessibility is predicated by Bill 59, and it's indicating that Nova Scotia will be accessible by 2030, and the municipalities are in the group of organizations called prescribed public sector bodies, and so there is legislation and regulation driving the work. And so there are upgrades required to current infrastructure to meet the standards. The focus for the municipality of Yarmouth has been on the administration building and the Rotary building. Audits were conducted on both buildings using the Rick Henson standard as well as the standards issued by the Accessibility Directorate. The findings were filed with Council's Accessibility Advisory Committee. The committee endorsed the audit results and made some additional recommendations which were adopted and approved by Council. From there, architects were hired to design the spaces that would meet a response to the audits. A tender was issued and the municipality has moved into construction phases. The plans were reviewed with staff, council, and the advisory committee. The approved budget for the work is $1.45 million. A significant portion of that is external funding. Provincial dollars and federal dollars to the tune of just north of $700,000. Plus VG Architects were the design and tender consultants, and Delmar Construction is doing the work on both buildings. The contracts have come in at $439,967 and $834,825, which is within budget. Work at the Rotary Center is underway, and we're preparing to begin work in the administration building with a focus on the business continuity plans. And it's estimated that the Rotary Center will be completed in spring 2025 and the administration building somewhere around August 2025. The business continuity piece for the administration building is very important because this is a seat of government, and government needs to be accessible to the people, so we need to make a plan. Questions?
I see none.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam CEO. That was very high level. Moving on to presentations, we have with us Ashley Rhino, our Senior Safety Coordinator. The mic is on and the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Council, and congratulations on a successful election. I'd like to speak with you a little bit tonight about our senior safety program that we have here in the municipality and what that entails. Mike's gonna bring up our presentation. So the senior safety program still maintains its goal to educate seniors on crime prevention, health and wellness, and to promote safe and independent living in their homes for seniors for as long as possible. It's done through two methods, through a preventative method and an intervention method. Mostly through home visits. We visit with senior individuals in their homes or a place that is comfortable for them, and then we do it through service navigation and presentations within the community as well. We have 3 key partnerships in our program that help us run, and first and foremost is our municipality, who fully funds one of the positions for our municipality and the benefit package of the 2 position program. So there's a position for our municipality and there's a position for the municipality of Argyle. We also receive 2 yearly grants from the Department of Seniors and Long-Term Care, one for $25,000 that's split between the 2 coordinators, that makes up the day-to-day expenses of the program, and then the $250 grant that's used towards Elder Abuse Awareness Day programming, which happens in June of every year. And then we also work very closely with the Yarmouth Rural RCMP by way of a memorandum of understanding, and that partnership helps with our office space and office supplies. It also offers us operational support, so they support us on calls if needed, we support them on calls as needed. So from January of this year to September, the end of September of this year, for Modi's program, there's been 211 documented home visits and 394 documented phone connections with partners, clients, service providers. There's been 34 referrals made for our municipality and 8 referrals made for the town of Yarmouth. We also administer the Vial of Life program. That program allows for all emergency information for the residents of the homes to be put in a vial that's then put in their fridge. That way, if first responders are needed, they know how to access that information, and that information's there for them. And so far, we've done 4 community presentations. We can add another 4 to that for October. And those are done usually in conjunction with the RCMP, are usually on frauds and scams and our program services. Not always, but that's what I would say 90% of them are. In May of this year, we had a wellness day. So 2 years ago, we were awarded a pocket of money from the Department of Mental Health. And we have successfully completed 2 wellness days with that money. So in May of this year, we had a wellness day held at NSCC where we had 85 participants attend. We had 30 or more exhibitors, which were community partners, not only from Yarmouth, but around the province. We had a keynote speaker come in, so we welcomed Star Cunningham from the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia, who joined us for our keynote. And then we had 2 separate breakout sessions with 6 options available to our participants. The feedback from that wellness day was, I would say, 99% positive for that day, and it is highly anticipated among residents and individuals each year. Today also completed our last of 4 lunch and learn sessions for our fall sessions. I'm happy to report that those lunch and learn sessions were our highest attended lunch and learn sessions we've done. So the highest number, we had just over 70 participants at one of them, and then the others ranged between 40 and 60 participants. That is done in partnership with the South Ohio Community Center. It is, again, a well thought out program, well looked into each and every year. So what's next for our program? Our home visits will always be our top priority, and it's a way of meeting clients where they're at, understanding what services and what help they may need, and meeting them in a place of where they're comfortable. We also were successful recipients of a grant through the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia this year to do a 3rd wellness day. And planning for that has begun as of last week, and we're looking at a day in May of 2025, which feels farther away than it is. We also are continuing to plan for community presentations and working with community partners, halls, and individuals around our district to make that possible. And then we're going to continue to build our relationships with our current partners and others. So having strong relationships with our community partners is key to helping our older individuals within the community. So it's imperative that we continue to do that, and that is always forefront of the mind as well and helps bridge those gaps. I'd like to provide you a testimonial from one of our RCMP members here in Yarmouth. And he had to say, recently I had a member of the public attend the Yarmouth Rural Office. This individual was making inquiries for a family who were having issues with a senior in their immediate family. An elderly individual was being scammed by someone overseas, but was unwilling to believe it was occurring or was embarrassed to tell the family or police. Ashley made contact the same day and continues to build rapport with this individual in hopes of making them feel comfortable enough that they can share information with the police to start an investigation. This personal contact on a regular basis is instrumental in moving the file forward and to assess the person's mental well-being. That's from one of our local members here in Yarmouth. If you're needing to contact me, my home base is at the Rural RCMP Detachment in Yarmouth. And I am there most days if I'm not on the road doing home visits. But my email is there and my office phone number as well. I want to thank you for having me. I can't tell you enough how much I enjoy the work that we do, and what a privilege it is to serve our senior residents, and I thank you for your continued and ongoing support. The program's in its 13th year and has largely been successful thanks to councils past and present, so thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Certainly appreciate the, on behalf of all the seniors and people that you've been in contact with, which I know many, really appreciate you coming out and helping them out, whether it's the Vital Lives or just helping out with situations that may be out of their control. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there any questions or comments from council? Councillor Lauren Cushing, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for your, for the new councillors and information, this program has been very well received within our communities here in Argyle. I've attended some of the presentations at the South Ohio Community Hall, and it's a great way to see so many people there absorbing the information that's provided, and also gives us, again, it gives the seniors a chance to get out and meet their neighbors, meet new people, and get some information of that they need. So the grant situation meeting that I attended, you know, and a lot of the seniors there were concerned about how long it takes to get these grants to come back to the individual for repairs to their homes and such, right? So I think that is something that we should be, as a council, focusing on to our provincial partners to see how that can be moved along on a quicker basis, and for the seniors to get the work done that they need. Thank you.
Councillor Jim Baxter.
Hi, Ashley. Pleasure meeting you.
You as well.
Very interesting program. I look forward to learning more about it. Couple questions for you. I live in Port Maitland, and I am a senior. So I guess, how do I engage you in community center in Port Maitland, or the fire hall, or meetings anywhere in our local district?
So anytime somebody's looking at having a presentation, I encourage them to just contact me at my office, either via phone or email, and that starts the conversation as to how that happens, what that looks like, when it happens.
Okay, that's easy. Now, part two to that question is, do you ever go do lunch and learns right in the seniors complexes?
In a pre-COVID area, if you're thinking like Green Cove Manor, those senior complexes, in a pre-COVID era, it did happen more frequently. One of the partnerships that we're building is that we just completed a session in those homes this week. So each home was received with a fraud and scam presentation in this last week. So you will see them happen again, absolutely.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Daniel Hughes.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you for the presentation. The home visits, how are they requested by the seniors? How do you go about getting the requests?
Sure. So oftentimes it's done through a referral. So referrals can come into the program in a variety of ways. It can be a self-referral, an RCMP referral, a community member, family member, self-referral, a service partner. I will then reach out to the individual. Our referrals come in on a confidential basis. And then we set up an appointment to either meet in their home or somewhere that they're comfortable with. Most often, I would say probably 99% of the time, they're willing to have me come into their home. So it's as simple as calling my office.
So that 215 home visits that you had, is that an average per year roughly, or?
It will ebb and flow. So what that statistic doesn't show is the length of time of a home visit. So sometimes a home visit can be 15 minutes, and sometimes it can be several hours, depending on what that looks like. It's pretty average, but it will fluctuate as kind of needs and demand fluctuates as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Phil Mooney.
Thank you, Chair. Ashley, good job as always. I've had the opportunity to listen to a few times, and I've always enjoyed every minute. What about our interactions? I know you work well with the same provider in Argyle. Can you just tell me the coordination you do there? Because I know there could be some overlap.
Are you referring to
Like
the
with
coordinator in Argyle?
yes.
So Peggy and I do work closely together. Sometimes if there poses a safety risk where we maybe need another individual to attend a home visit, we will go together. If it's okay for both of us to go, or we'll bring an RCMP member with us. We often collaborate on things like the Wellness Day, or if there's a combined presentation, it's done through both municipalities as well.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Staff? Well, thank you very much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Appreciate all the work that you do. Moving on to item number 7, correspondence for action, 7.1.1, Library Funding Review Committee update. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council, this letter is in the package for you this evening for a couple of reasons under action. Number one is obviously to bring council up to date with the work that's being done to review the formula that is used to fund public libraries in the province of Nova Scotia. So the formula has not been reviewed for decades, and as a person might imagine, the costs of operating libraries have escalated along with the cost of everything else. And the metrics used to determine how to fund a library warranted taking a look because the way public libraries are used today are very different than the ways public libraries were used 20 years ago. So a working group and a library funding review committee were put together that consisted of representation from library boards, from the province, library staff, and municipal councils, as well as municipal administrators. And some work was undertaken to try to determine a way forward in terms of funding libraries. And a report has been filed, and it's sitting with government. What I wanted to bring to council's attention is a couple of things. So the Council for the District of Yarmouth has voluntarily topped up library funding for the Western Counties Regional Library to ensure that public libraries serving residents of the District of Yarmouth weren't adversely affected during the period of time the funding model was under review. However, in Nova Scotia, there is a memorandum of understanding between the province and municipalities that any increased cost to municipalities for services would come with a 1 year's notice. And it has happened in the past where correspondence written very much like the letter in the package has come across council's desks. And stakeholders are of the opinion that that's the 1 year's notice of the cost increase. And I submit to council this evening that this letter does not fulfill the requirements of 1 year's notice. There's no indication on what the new formula is. There's no indication on what the municipality of Yarmouth's new contribution level will be. And so I am recommending that a letter be written to whoever the new minister will be for communities, culture, and heritage, just thanking them for the work of the review committee, but indicating that we await the 1 year's notice on the new approach to funding.
So is anyone willing to make that a motion to recommend to regular council? Moved by Councillor Phil Mooney. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jim Baxter. Discussion on that. Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. And for anyone watching and any new councillors, this is a recommendation to our regular council meeting, so it will be on our next regular council meeting agenda. When is it? The 20th?
Yes, sir.
20th of this month. Any more on that subject? Seeing none, moving on. Item 7.1.2, request to pave Park Drive. Deputy Warden, that's, has your name attached? You have the floor, I think. Nope. Councillor Mooney.
I'll go let the deputy go first. and we'll-
Deputy Warden?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for stating that, Councillor Mooney. Yeah, the letter was addressed to me. I was acclaimed this time around, but I did knock on the doors and have lots of conversations with folks all around the municipality, including on Park Drive and Sealand Avenue. And we've also got another unpaved subdivision road that we do own. So those are the three roads: Sealand, Park Drive, and Lake Estates Court. Just sort of adding, I think Councillor Mooney's comments were sage comments just a little while back. He did indicate about, you know, the proximity of a lot of our municipality to town, and you know that's a great opportunity to build out infrastructure, to build out housing, because everybody wants to be you know, close to the services, and we do have water sewer down in all those areas, which is a huge bonus, right? It's very, very expensive to have sewer water, and so I have taken some efforts over the years, certainly, in continuing to, and our CAO is actively engaged too in seeing what we can do in terms of Park Drive being extended as a J-class road. The top part of Park Drive is J-class, and we'd like to see that, and the council's been active in seeing if we can't get that extended. So that would obviously make things easier. But long story short is, you know, I believe as a councillor for the area that's a project that we should look to move forward with, the paving of those piece of infrastructure they own. We only own the three roads, so it's not, you know, there's not an infinite amount of funding that's required, but there are a lot of development opportunities for us, and to increase the taxation, the assessment, you know, moving forward. So I think that's what we need to do. Housing is required in the area, and that's a great opportunity to work with the community and in other levels of government to get that job done. So anyway, I look forward to working with all you around the table and our staff and other levels of government to get that done, because it really, really does need to be done. Those residents, deserve to have their road surfaced, just like, most everybody else in the municipality district of Yarmouth that lives on a public road.
Mr. Chair,
Councillor Phil Mooney.
Mr. Chair, maybe if I could make a motion to put the subject on the floor, and maybe we can have some discussion over it. I'd like to move for staff to explore the current costs of all facets of paving Park Drive and Sealand Avenue and any other upgrades there included, because maybe get a seconder on that, and then I'd like to have a follow-up comment.
All right, moved by Councillor Phil Mooney, seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
And I know this has been discussed on previous council meetings, and maybe just to refresh it, and I know costs of paving and any kind of infrastructure, the costs are going up daily. I had a conversation with a couple of developers over the last week or two, and there's up to 23 lots in that area that still can be developed. They're all plumbed. They're all watered, they're all ready to go, so that infrastructure is already in the ground. If you look at the low end of some of that housing in that development, could be anywhere from $350,000 to $600,000. So if you average that out, there'd be $10 million of new taxable income coming in, and they have the feeling that if it is paved and upgraded, that they will fill in that project, and I think that's what we should do. But I would just say, I'm just looking forward for staff to come up and just see what the current costs are to do the project.
Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just with new councillors around the table and Mr. Chair, acknowledging that some of the new councillors around the table are not brand new councillors, they have previous municipal experience. The municipality of Yarmouth does not have an engineering department. And so this will mean an expense to the municipality in terms of getting some external help. And so what we can do in initial steps, if this is the wishes of council, is get a feel for what's left in this year's operating budget to begin working on the required research related to the motion that's on the floor, and then come back to council and let you know where we're situated resource-wise, and then see what you'd like to do from there.
I see no other microphones flashing, but my personal opinion on that would be to move this forward to possibly consideration for capital projects. In that way there, we could allocate the engineering monies or exploration into something like that, rather than just looking into seeing what we have left. If we're going to do something, we might as well do it right. There's also...
Could I incorporate that into the motion? Would that be appropriate?
You can make an amendment to the motion on the
Make
floor.
amendment to the motion that we incorporated into the capital projects? Is that?
Discussion?
Yes.
Yep. Amendment on the floor, seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
And there is some expertise up in that area. I know some of the residents there are intimately aware of what the project is, some of the costs and some of the benefits up there. So there's expertise up on Park Drive in that area. I think they could help us out, especially in some of the technical aspects, but it does have to be engineered and it does have to be costed in today's dollars. So I have no problem with the amendment, and I'm willing to support the motion.
Any more discussion on the amendment on the main motion? I can stomach that, move it forward and have a plan to move forward, rather than just trying to pull or look and see if there's any monies that we have left over, because more than likely we don't, because all that money has been allocated. I don't know where it all sits. So I could support that. Whether or not it would actually get paved or chip sealed or whatever it is, but at least the exploration should be done. So I'm in agreement with that at least. So seeing no more, all those in favor on the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Back to the main motion on the floor. Any more discussion on the main motion? Councilor Nick Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we had lots of good conversation in the last term and had, I believe, a community meeting with local residents where we explored the community improvement bylaw and bringing them on board to help fund some of the project. And I think at the end of the day, we kind of decided that if we could do some of the engineering on our own, at least we'd have direction for them. So I am on board for doing the engineering, but not to fund the project completely by ourselves. So you moved, well, initially the deputy warden talked about all 3 roads we owned, and then we only moved for the 2 in Park Drive. Why are we not doing the engineering on the 3? Why are we not planning for the 3? Why are we not planning for 2? That's my question to the people that moved it.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. Mr. Chair, I was only addressing the letter that we received.
Yeah.
That's the reason for that motion. I'm fully aware of the other one, but I only addressed the question that we had, or the correspondence that we received. But I'm fully supportive of the other one too, if we want to.
I guess my concern is we have 3 roads, we're going out of our way to engineer the 2 of them, and it's going to be expensive. This is going to be expensive.
Yes, it is.
Significant amount of money probably. But I do believe that we only own 3 roads. We hear complaints about everyone else's roads, the provincial roads, nonstop all the time. We can't continue to ignore the only 3 that we have. So I guess I'm going to move the amendment to include the 3rd additional road.
So you're going to make an amendment? How does, a second amendment to the main motion to include the 3rd road? Okay.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Nick Hilton, seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Any discussion on the second amendment? Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Back to the main motion. That was quick. Question on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And that, just remember that these are recommendations to the regular council meeting. I don't know if that was stated at the start, but it'll be coming up on the 20th. Item 7.1.3, CCBF Renewal Municipal Funding Agreement. You have in there the allocation, the municipal funding agreement for the CCB fund, and the administrative agreement on the CCB fund. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm so pleased to be able to bring this correspondence to council this evening. It formalizes the information we had that there is a new infrastructure agreement between the Government of Canada and municipalities across Canada. In your package, there are 4 key documents: the cover letter, the allocation of the funding for Nova Scotia, the agreement that the municipality of the District of Yarmouth is being asked to sign, and the agreement that the Government of Canada has signed with the Government of Nova Scotia. So under the current framework, the 2024-2025 allocation for Canada Community Building Fund to the municipality of Yarmouth is $511,389,000. That formula is predicated on a number of different metrics that take into account your population, your housing demography, as well as how much money a municipality is currently investing in infrastructure. This is the program that was formerly known as the gas tax program. So the requirement this evening is to seek approval from council for the warden and the CAO to sign the funding agreement for the Canada Community Building Fund between His Majesty the King and the municipality, the District of Yarmouth, recognizing that Nova Scotia, the province of Nova Scotia, will be the administrator of the agreement. The agreement sets out what the eligible expenses are, the eligible projects are, the reporting mechanisms that are required to be obliged, as well as the duration of the agreement. which takes us through 10 years to 2034. And the initial 5-year term of the agreement is a $310 million fund.
Deputy Warden.
Well, given this is a flowing of money from the federal level of government to our level of government, I think it's obviously a very, very good thing. So I'm looking forward to the 10 years of funding. So I'll move that the Municipality District of Yarmouth approve the signature of the document is circulated, the CCBF document, and that we enable the warden and the and staff to sign off on that agreement for the 10-year period is circulated.
That's a recommendation to regular council. Okay, motion on the floor, seconded by Councillor Lauren Cushing. Discussion? Councillor Jim Baxter.
I don't know if this is the right time to ask this question, but I thought you had mentioned when we were going through the earlier presentation on capital expenses that this money could be used for the business park.
Yes,
Yes.
it can be. So for economic development, it's one of the categories.
Okay, just wanted
Yep,
for my clarity.
for sure.
Okay.
Just remember, councillor, or any councillor, if you have any questions like that, please feel free to spout them out, because people that are watching online are also wondering, probably have the same questions. So no question's a dumb question. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 2, 7.2, for information, item 7.2.1, the senior safety programming funding, and also fin file 028823, replying to my correspondence of August the 30th. If council, these are information pieces. If you do have questions or comments, you can certainly speak out on any of them. And I usually leave the floor open if there's any comments, and I don't see any. Moving on to item number 8, old business, item 8.1, the PACE Administrative Agreement. Madam CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The municipality, the District of Yarmouth, has a property assessed clean energy bylaw, which helps make money available by way of a low-interest loan to homeowners who would like to make energy upgrades to their homes to improve the efficiency of the home from an energy perspective. The bylaw sets out that the municipality will enter into an agreement with an administrator who can provide the analysis and the investment to return ratio required for those improvements to a home. Historically, the municipality has entered into an agreement with the Clean Nova Scotia Foundation for that. And in the package this evening is the renewal agreement to continue that relationship. In the agreement in the package, the agreement is a little bit late getting to the municipality this fiscal year, so the agreement in the package would set out an ending date of March 31st, 2025. And I'm recommending to council that if it's agreeable to the Clean Foundation, that the municipality, the District of Yarmouth, re-sign the agreement to the end of March 31st, 2026.
Anyone willing to make that a recommendation to regular council? Moved by Councillor Phil Mooney, seconded by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Any discussion on that? I do have one follow-up question, Madam CEO. In that regard, is it common or not common to ask for an extension till 2026, something like that? Since it's a little bit late.
The original agreement was 5 years to March 31st, 2024, and we are just now getting the new agreement.
Oh, okay.
And so
I missed that piece.
it doesn't seem efficient or effective to sign an agreement for 4 short months. The municipality of Yarmouth has had a good experience with Clean Nova Scotia Foundation, and I see no reason not to just provide a little bit more longevity to the agreement.
Absolutely. Any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 8.2, Good Neighbor Bylaw. Councillor Nick Hilton asked for an update from staff regarding this, so I'll turn the floor over to CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as was reported a couple of months ago, after staff undertook a workshop with council to understand what council was looking for in that proposed new bylaw, a draft document was created and sent to the SPCA to determine if they would be willing to provide services to the municipality. And we have not received a price back from them yet. It was my understanding the direction from council was to come back with a draft bylaw that would also include the price for the service. And so we have pressed the SPCA to get back to us on that. And so we're hoping in December we'll be able to come back to council with a report on that, which would include a price and a draft bylaw.
Questions, comments? Seeing none, moving on. Item number 9, new business. Item 9.1, cost of the living adjustment management policy. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The municipality of District of Yarmouth historically had a policy whereby certain expenses, including remuneration for council and staff, were adjusted automatically every year by the Nova Scotia CPI index. It was noted during the period of high inflation that opened up the municipalities to some significant risk, and that there was an argument to be made to put a ceiling on that approach to managing inflation for those costs. And so a policy was put into place whereby there would be a maximum of 3.5% used for that calculation in any given year, and not less than 0%. The policy also required an annual review, and so I did the review for this year. And so the CPI average 2014 to 2024 ranges from a low of minus 0.7 to a high of 7.3, with an average of 2.42 in the source is Statistics Canada. So the CPI for Nova Scotia as of September 2024 is 0.9%. So it appears that that ceiling of 3.5% would accomplish two goals: to avoid spikes due to inflation when there are no adjustments to those expenses over a long period of time, but also provide a good level of financial stewardship in mitigating anomalies that could take place in the economy. And so my recommendation is that there is no change to the ceiling, but I do further recommend, and the draft amendment to the policies in the package, Mr. Chair, that rather than review the policy annually, that the policy be reviewed following each general municipal election. The last 3 reviews have indicated that the approach is consistent, and so it doesn't seem like that's something that needs to be reviewed annually.
What is council's pleasure? Is there any recommendation you'd like to make to the committee of the whole? Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham.
Yeah, I'll move that council recommend to the committee of the whole to undertake the changes to the cost of living adjustment management policy C-28622 is outlined in the recommendation provided by our CEO.
A motion on the floor, seconder? Seconded by, I seen Councillor Lauren Cushion. Sorry, Councillor Mooney. Discussion?
And just a question to the CAO. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Municipal, you talk about COLA, cost of living increase. Municipal governments is actually higher than household, right? Aren't we double, from what I understand? If it's CPI is 1.5 or 2%, the cost of municipal governments usually double that.
Oh, at least. There are drivers that municipal governments have to subject themselves to that typical households don't. So, for example, policing costs rose 11% one year when the cost of living was 6.5%.
Yeah. So the rule of thumb used to be double. So if it was even 3.5% COLA, it would be probably 7% to 8% for a municipality.
For other expenses.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
No more discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 9.2, date of November and December regular council meetings.
So, Mr. Chair, it's being recommended that the November council meeting be November 20th to allow municipal council to attend the NSFM conference, and that the December meeting, according to tradition, is one meeting, committee of the whole and council combined together, and that would be on December 18th.
Moved by Counselor Nick Hilton, seconded by Counselor Jim Baxter. Discussion? Seeing none?
Just for clarification, if I could, Mr. Chair, that both meetings will be at 6 PM in the evening.
6 PM.
Yep.
Seeing no discussion on that, all those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Item 9.3, free transit backgrounder. Deputy Warden. You have the
Yes,
floor.
included in our package tonight is a free transit backgrounder. It comes from the Liberal platform for the provincial election. But having said that, my interest in that is just to perhaps write the three campaigns, the three leaders, and alert them to the fact that we'd like to engage post-election in a conversation with them about transit services, and particularly transit services in a rural setting. This was largely talking about transit in HRM, free transit, and since we don't have any transit much, that wouldn't advantage us much. But having said that, I'll just move recommendation to regular council that we write the three parties a letter asking them to, outline, their plan for transit for rural Nova Scotia, with specific mention of the municipality district of Yarmouth and our specific circumstances.
Okay, motion on the floor by Deputy Warden Trevor Cunningham. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Jim Baxter. And please note in the meeting minutes that Councillor Nick Hilton had stepped away from the table due to a conflict. Discussion? You still have the floor, Deputy Warden.
No further discussion.
No, I think that's a great idea, just to see what forward, seeing what all candidates are thinking, and hopefully get an answer on that. Deputy Warden?
Yeah, I mean, it's an important thing. It's challenging in a rural setting, but having said that, while I was door knocking, several people identified as a need, right? And people for a whole variety of reasons need to travel and need public transportation. So it's something we should look at moving forward for sure with our provincial partners.
And I think...
Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to add a little to what Councillor Cunningham stated and moved, I think we have some opportunities in Yarmouth County that could alleviate some of those transportation problems. There's a couple of organizations that have some infrastructure that we could use, and maybe we should, by the time our motion gets back to any of the parties, there's only going to be one of those parties that's going to be making the decision. So by the time that gets there and by the time the answer gets back, we're already going to know who's going to be making a decision or bringing back a comment. But I think we have some, and I'm going to call it in-house solutions, and I mean that right here in southwestern Nova Scotia that could help us with some of these things. But I had the same opportunity to go, not being acclaimed like yourself, or the warden, but I had the opportunity to go door to door, and that was the topic of conversation on the doorsteps, was some kind of transportation or transit infrastructure. So I'll support the motion, but I think we can do some other work besides that.
Councillor Jim Baxter.
And just to support Councillor Cunningham's comments, I had the same thing knocking on doors. I had both youth and seniors saying, we need more bus routes.
Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think it's important to add that, the idea around public transportation is one of those services that the master plan around housing and municipal infrastructure is going to ask questions around. Because the scope of work for that research is not just about sewer and sidewalks, it's around recreation, trails, senior safety programs, public transportation. What are the things that people who are going to live in where we think the houses are going to be going to need? So, yeah.
Question being called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Please note, Councillor Nick Hilton is going to be taking his seat. Item 9.4, walk audits for Greenville Road and Airport Stretch. Councillor Nick Hilton, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the opportunity to join two groups, one at the Greenville Community Center and one at Wasoho First Nation to do a walk audit in both areas. The documents are attached for the one on the airport stretch, as well as the empty form that we filled out. And I just want you to pay attention to some of the notes that the participants made in results of the airport stretch and how horrible the conditions were to even walk in the area. And Greenville Road was no better. So both, we kind of filled them out as a group, and in the walk audit forms, the scores range up to 120 points total, and in both areas, I scored less than 25 points. And below 60, it's a disaster for walking, is what it says. So this kind of goes back to our active transportation plan, and it shows you that each communities all across the municipality and district of Yarmouth are looking for safe places to walk, and that was part of the reason that the active transportation plan was the motion passed to create it, is that in my eyes each community should have, you know, a kilometer of trail or sidewalk in that they can access safely and that it's accessible for all users. So I just wanted you to be aware you're going to get a presentation in the future in regards to both of these walk audits, but I wanted you to start thinking about it because, again, it's very dangerous. The traffic was, especially in Greenville, actually in both areas, you know, well over 80 kilometers an hour or faster, and nowhere for the community members in Greenville to walk or to exercise it safely. So keep that in mind, and I'm sure we'll be discussing this through the consultation process for the active transportation plan.
Thank you very much. Comments? Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hilton, for the walkability audit tool. There we go. I don't think there's a section or an area within the municipality that it's not safe to walk. You know, which this covers a huge area, and how would we deal with this type of problem? As for, I'll give you an example, as for Highway 304 leading to Cape Fichu, that's considered as a blue route by the province of Nova Scotia, who are responsible for making sure this road is accessible to walking, riding, and jogging, right? So, so that's something that we should ask the new government, whichever they may be, to come and make a presentation to us on this blue route, because your airport stretch that you're referring to is also considered as a blue route. So I think that's just something that we should be asking the province to make a presentation here on this blue route situation, and there's other ones in the municipality also. The walkability audit tool, yes, is interesting, but my goodness, we're going to get a lot of pile of paperwork saying that who needs it first, or who, and reason why and whatnot. So it's interesting, so it's good to have this information, so thank you.
Councillor Hilton?
Thank you. Just to comment on Councillor Cushion's remarks, I need a new mic, I tell you that. The airport stretch is on I believe, on the province's radar to pave in 2026. And I would just, through you to staff, have we had any further conversations with Department of Public Works about partnering with them on the project to make sure that we're getting bike lanes and possibly an active transportation trail there?
Madam CEO?
Mr. Chair, it's been some time since that project committee met. I'm going to say it was in the winter, early part of 2024. And at that time, the conversation was still focused on identifying which partners were going to come to the table to be part of improvements along what is known as the highway stretch, which is from the lights at the Hard Scratch Road out to the Arcadia corner. And so under contemplation is a widening of the road, addition of the bike lane, and construction of an active transportation asset. So it's my understanding that, you know, the province is leading that conversation. They're very well aware at the senior management level at Public Works that the municipality of Yarmouth wants to be part of improvements along that stretch. It's my understanding that Wassahopa is also at the table, and so I think that the conversation that was being had was a check-in with the town of Yarmouth in terms of where did that project fit within their priorities, because over the number of years that we've been talking about this project, the town's priorities, some of them have been addressed, and so this project could be near to the top for the town. And so I haven't heard anything probably in 6 months on that project.
Through you to the Madam CEO, is it possible that can we write to Public Works and just ask them for an update, knowing that this is it's 2 years out, if we update on where they stand on doing the engineering for that? Because I know it got delayed from this paving this year to 2026 because they had to do additional engineering. I'm just curious. I don't want to be left behind.
Right, Mr. Chair, so valid concern for sure. Just given kind of the time frame that we're in, it might net better results if I'm just directed to give the capital projects manager and maybe the associate deputy minister a call just to see, kind of how they've made out with some of the other conversations they've needed to have. And if I sense that there's risk to Modi being included in a project, I'll come back to council and perhaps then we need to get a little more formal.
Could you let us know either way?
Yes, sir.
What the outcome is, please?
Yep.
You want a motion or just consensus to make that call?
Just consensus would be fine. I don't see no dissenters, so.
And
Go ahead,
to what
Councilor.
Councillor Hilton said, if you go out in the corridor, so the town has just done the sidewalk to the corner now by the Petro-Canada and the car rental place. So the next logical step would be going across the road, because that corridor from that corner from Jim Adams' car wash down to the administration buildings for our First Nation administration building there's a lot of people go through that corridor, and especially you'll see at nighttime people coming from the hotel down into some of the eating establishments on Stars Road. And so that would be, if you're going to piggyback or do portion of the thing, but I think what Councillor Hilton said incorporates all those concerns that we have on where we stand with some of our other partners, because I think we could have the town of Yarmouth, the provincial government, and our First Nation people all join together on this project, along with the municipality of Yarmouth.
Absolutely, I don't disagree with that at all. Just traveling through there today, when I was traveling up the old highway, heading into town, there was 4 people that I know of that were walking, a couple in front of Bruce Honda, and another one up by the Kia, and another one at the traffic lights waiting to cross the road. So that is a busy area. A lot of people do walk that. And the road is getting torn up, so, and they do know it. But I also from my understanding, they were talking about road widening, and then I was expecting to hear something through the airport, but I haven't heard any of that where I was the current chair. Who knows who's going to be the chair of the airport board afterwards, but they were talking about that, so I'm actually curious where the CEO is going to find out where they stand with that, so. All right, no more discussion on that? Item 9.5, Town Bulk Water Station. Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Ward. I was going to say your worship, but that's my previous role. I'd like to serve notice of motion. Whereas in 2020, the town of Yarmouth Water Utility opened a self-serve bulk water dispensing facility in the town to serve residents of Yarmouth Town and municipality. And whereas it is expected a large percentage of users of this service are residents of the municipality who would normally rely on wells for potable water, and whereas changing climate conditions and more frequent annual periods of drought means residents of the municipality will experience dry wells more often and will become increasingly dependent on bulk water availability and competing with town residents for the use of the town's bulk water facility. Therefore, be resolved, the municipality of Yarmouth explore the process of establishing its own bulk water dispensing facility in order to provide the taxpayers of the municipality a reliable, accessible, and convenient supply of water in times of need. And CAO may be, when served notice of motion, there's no discussion, that'll be brought up in December, right?
On the next agenda,
On
yep.
that agenda, thank you.
So to be clear to everyone, what was just done is there was a notice of motion that this would be coming up on our next agenda. He was just notifying council what his plans were, so it will give you some time to think on the notice of motion that he put forward. Okay? Item number 10. Public comments. Let me see if there's any, there is one? We have with us today one request, Miss Betty Cox. You have the floor.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to take a minute to welcome back all of our returning members and our new members of council. This council is an important piece in our democracy, and it's the one that I personally feel is the most important to people because it is closest to where we live. Now, moving on, I'd like to address the issue of the public's right to speak. During the campaign leading up to this council, you were all asked about the 15-minute section at the end of meetings, and most of the answers were varied, but the general consensus was that they were all in favor of the public's right to speak. And so I applaud that stance, but now it's time to put your money where your mouth is. The current provision for the public input expired with the election. Remember, it was only a trial. I would hope that an immediate response will be made by the council to make this time a permanent feature of council meetings. No, we don't need anything more. We don't need a lot of tampering or adjusting. This 3 minutes per person with a maximum of 5 speakers is definitely sufficient. It's more than we need, really, but it's nice to have that option, to have 5 speakers. The sign-up sheet ensures that someone who has something they feel is important can come in early. They can ensure their space to speak. So that is I applaud the idea of the sign-up sheet as well. However, at the end of any meeting, if the 15 minutes hasn't been used up, it would be a nice courtesy to ask if anybody in the galley had something to say. We would, however, one thing I'd like to see added, and that is the issue of questions be accepted. With very clear understanding, they may have to wait for an answer, okay? Questions to clarify some item on the current agenda could be easily answered at the end of a session, if somebody had some question about something that happened in a meeting. But other more serious questions, the public recognizes that they might need inspection, investigation, some discussion among counselors before presenting an answer. And those answers could be presented at a future meeting. The deal is that it means that if someone has a question that they feel is truly important to them and may be important to other members of the public, that they could get the question on the public record. And this is a nice way to do it, by having the chance to speak at the end of council meetings. And I applaud you all, because I'm sure that you're going to make this a permanent adjustment, okay, considering the answers we had to the questions during the campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Betty. In risk of getting my fingers wrapped, that is an agenda item coming up in January for our council procedural policy. All right, no other comments from the public? Item number 11, need a motion to go into camera. Oh, yeah, we can do that. Motion for 5 minutes recess. Moved by Councillor Nick Hilton, seconded by Councillor Daniel Muse. Yes, I was almost ready to say the other word. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.